What's up, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson here with Inside Arkansas and the Pot at the Palace. Hope everybody's doing good today. Hope you've been enjoying your holiday weekend. I'm enjoying it now that I'm back from Kansas City, but a few days here between games for the Razorbacks and probably a pretty good time for what we're going to call a Razorback reset, a recalibration, if you will, based on where this team is at right now, which is probably, in fairness, not exactly where I thought they were or where they were going to be. And that's probably the case for John Calipari and most fans out there. So I'm not going to be overly harsh here or overreactive, but honestly, just measured. I mean, I try my best to keep it real with you guys based on what I feel and what I see. It's just one man's opinion here, but obviously it's a man who's appreciative of the support, the audience that tunes in every day. So I'm not going to gaslight you here. I'm not. Hand up. I was wrong. Okay, about a couple things with this Razorback team. Just based on the last handful of games, right? Because after the Baylor game, they hung in there. There were some red flags, but we knew that we really weren't going to have a good feel for where this team is at until they played this Illinois game. You had some tune-ups, some opportunities to work out some kinks, fine-tune some things, make some progress. I thought that they did some of those things, and maybe they have, but it certainly didn't show on Thanksgiving. I wasn't declaring them a Final Four contender over here based on what they did against Maryland Eastern Shore, but I did feel like, excuse me, that we were starting to see some positive trends, maybe. I feel like they had made quite a bit more progress from that Baylor game, I guess, than they have, when really it was just the same issues from that one looking even worse, quite honestly, or amplified against what I think is a better team in Illinois. But it just so happened to be the next team that Arkansas played who has a pulse. And so now here you are, 7 games into the season, you played 2 power conference opponents and you've lost both of those games. One of them close, one of them wasn't, but you didn't look really good in the process in either one of those. So, there's some things that they got to figure out here. Speaking as a guy who's prepped 200 scouting reports as a college basketball coach, with ball screen defense being a part of each and every one of them, Arkansas doesn't look like they know what they're doing right now in that regard. I'm sorry, they just don't. I don't understand the plan, and I get it. They're very limited with Z at the 5 there. I think Jonas Adu already looks like your best option there at the 5 with ball screen defense. He can do a lot of different things. I mean, I can't remember the last time an Arkansas team was hard hedging ball screens, but Adu is a guy who moves well enough and has instincts and recovers well enough to where he can do that, among a lot of other things. Until he's full speed, though, I don't know. They may need to go with the Eric Musselman drop coverage and shadow help over the top, especially against teams that can make you pay the way Illinois does. Just run them off the 3-point line, take that away from them, and see if they can finish over your shot blockers, which is something that you do kind of have there. But it was not pretty, and Illinois knew it, and they really took advantage of it. For me, offensively right now, I think it's just math, right? Like, if you aren't running a team off the 3-point line, you've got to make up the difference elsewhere, and we talked about that in the build up to this Illinois game. But if a team I don't know, if a team's going to make 15 threes, you never want that to happen. If they're going to make 15 threes, you're going to have to attempt more than 17. Okay. And I know that I've been critical of people who have been critical about this because my whole thought process, and it was, Arkansas, if they're only going to shoot, 20, 22 threes or whatever, make sure you're shooting them at a pretty good percentage. They were 35.5% coming in this game. They were making 8 per game. Even that wouldn't have been enough in this one. Like, you have to adjust and adapt throughout the course of a game to barely attempt more than the other team makes. That's not a good recipe. It's math. You make 5, they make 15. That's a 30-point difference. How the hell are you going to make that up somewhere else? Well, you're going to have to draw 35 FTAs, which they didn't do, and you're going to have to make better than 60% of them, which they didn't do. So that's kind of what gets you in a one-off, right, in a game like that. But the issue for me is, like, Arkansas is not able to create quality shots right now. They would have taken more threes if they were getting looks like Illinois was, but they weren't. They're not able to create quality shots right now in the half court. Their best offense was to pound and pray in the paint. That's all they had going for them, unless they were able to get out in transition and really push the issue. Or it was kind of like Eric Musselman 2.0 of, well, we know Thero is just more athletic and more physical than anybody, so just get him the ball and let him kind of go to work, get out of his damn way. and let him do something, which was probably the recipe for him in this game, honestly. But that's not what you want to see. Everything came so easy for Illinois, didn't it? I mean, just poetry in motion. Show me more than a small handful of things that came easily for Arkansas offensively the other day. You can't. You can't. One pass possessions, rarely reversing the ball. If you watch Illinois' movement, their screening, their cutting, their reads, and then you watch Arkansas's, you're going to be looking at your remote wondering if you accidentally put Arkansas on slow motion. Like, what's going on here? It looked like two completely different worlds. The Razorbacks are behind right now. And it's okay to admit that. It's true, right? I think that is what alarmed me yesterday more than anything. Not the loss to Illinois, because I wasn't crazy about the matchup going into it. Mentioned Illinois' three-point shooting. How is Arkansas going to be able to overcome that? We talked about their physicality, their length at different spots that would cause some matchup troubles, which it did. But it was, to me, more about Arkansas just kind of reverting back to bad habits the moment that they get a challenge from a team. I don't know. I really don't know why I keep driving these games, honestly, if it's not for the NCAA tournament. Like, I legitimately cannot remember the last time that I was in hell, it must have been the last time I was in Kansas City for the Hall of Fame Classic, when I drove to one of these games and Arkansas had a good showing. I guess one time they beat Oklahoma in the BOK Center, but man, it's like the Bahamas and continuously going to the DFW to watch them lose to somebody, or like this trip in Kansas City or whatever, like you name it. They just, for whatever reason, I think it's like a frustrating truth right now for Razorback fans. Whenever their team is under the spotlight, like they just don't seem ready to perform. Now, hey, like I'll make that trade off if I can keep going to NCAA tournaments and they make runs. So we'll do that. But man, in the regular season, it can be a little bit frustrating. I get it. Arkansas was not ready for this game against Illinois. That's the bothersome part, right? It's not the loss to a team that's going to be really good. I think they're a top 20 team, but it was that they were just kind of outclassed in every way. And then it's just another feather in the cap for the haters. And there's plenty of them out there. And frankly, I or you or anybody, you really can't say anything to them right now, because, it's a long way to go, but you are a month into the season. And the reality is Arkansas is not a top 25 team. They're not really a tournament team. They don't look like one. And they're certainly not ready for the SEC. I'm confident they're going to improve. I still have 100% confidence this bunch is going to make the tournament and that they're going to have a good year. But I'd be lying to you if I was to tell you that I'm not starting to wonder about the big picture ceiling here. We can say it's still November. It's just November. But it's been a month and we've got 7 games of sample size in, so almost a quarter of the way through the season. And you're not seeing a ton of progress against good competition just yet. Like a team that's still very much trying to find its way. Can they get there? Sure. Will they? The jury's out on that. They've got a long, long way to go. It's just kind of where we're at. Fans have no real choice, I think, at this point, but to play the long game, the trust the process game. The question is, should you be in this position, though? And because I've been trying to understand, because, man, it did not take long for, just live tweeting the game, people to be like, this team sucks. I'm over it. This is ridiculous. Give us the NIL money back, everything. And I was like, man, people are really up in arms about this. So the entire drive back from Kansas City, I was trying to think, why are people so mad? What's going on here? Well, I understand it, and I'm trying to relate. It's easy, I think, to be patient in a vacuum, but it becomes increasingly difficult when you see Kentucky well ahead of schedule, looking like a well-oiled machine already. You can't use it's a new roster excuse when Mark Pope's doing the same thing with less talented players already, right? Alabama and Auburn look like two of the best teams in the country. Tennessee's buzzing along like always. Other teams like Mississippi State cruising right now. Florida, with all the drama with Todd Golden, they just keep winning games. Ole Miss on the come up. Oklahoma, a team that was picked, near the bottom of the SEC with some big time wins. Vanderbilt, better than anticipated. The list goes on and on. So, anyone who comes to me, and a lot of people have, with the Arkansas went out and got a Hall of Fame coach and unlimited NIL to avoid exactly this, I won't be arguing. It's just the reality of where we're at right now, I think. You can't make we have freshmen and young players argument because Illinois had a bunch of first-year players out there looking like veterans yesterday, right? Jakachonis, the point guard, Will Riley, the wing, Ivisic, Tomislav is a first-year player. A bunch of young guys out there who look like they've been doing it for years, look like they've been playing together for years. You can't use the Arkansas, these guys are learning to play together thing too much because, 3 of your starters played for you last year. And that was something when I was pushing back to people who were saying, oh, Arkansas's got a brand new roster. It's going to take time and everything. One thing I was saying was, I think the continuity aspect of this is a little bit overrated. Anytime you have a team where you can say, oh, we're returning 3 starters, automatically that puts you in a good light. You should be ahead of schedule. DJ Thero, Big Z, those guys aren't new to playing together. You got to get other players integrated, but there's a good foundation laid there. Saying they haven't been able to scrimmage or practice, it's not an excuse. It's just a fact. Like, it's the reality of the situation that they're in, and it matters, and it has impacted things. But John Calipari also made the conscious choice to not even recruit enough players on his roster to be able to do so anyway. Like he was talking about bringing GAs in for practice from the jump. And so, like, now you're seeing it playing out in real time. And it's impacted things negatively. Does that mean it's going to be the case all year? Not necessarily. You got to get healthy, but like they made themselves vulnerable, I guess is what I'm saying, for this exact situation. So when I hear that, it's like, yeah, that stinks. You wish you had all these guys available. You wish you were further along. But maybe you could have been if you didn't make the choices that you made. It's hindsight, it's revisionist history or whatever. It was true. So like, I'm not worried about them losing to Illinois. I'm worried about how far behind I feel like Arkansas looked, comparatively speaking. The fight was there. The toughness was there. Man, they played hard. They didn't quit. Billy Richmond, you saw some really good things from him. Thero was an animal in there. They couldn't quite get over the hump. They didn't fold. They didn't get completely blown out. And so those are all encouraging things to take away. But just from being a cohesive, competent basketball team out there on both ends of the floor, playing together, playing as one unit, they got a long ways to go and not a long time to get there. Honestly, like I'm not worried about this team defensively overall. I'm really worried about teams who thrive in ball screens against you until you figure that out. I'm not concerned that Arkansas can't shoot. We've seen that they can, but what I am concerned about right now, or what my eyebrows raised about, is that they don't, or they won't, against good teams for whatever reason. And again, I think part of that is when you're not able to create good looks and rhythm threes and catch and shoot opportunities, more high percentage looks from beyond the arc, against better teams, they're not going to be quite as wide open. Those closeouts are going to come a little bit quicker. You need to get it off a little bit faster. And so the percentage drops. And then instead of doing things better to create more high percentage looks, you just kind of go away from it and say, we got to get to the rack. To a degree, that's fine. But there's got to be a balance there. Honestly, in the second half, what were they, 5 of 10 from 3 in the second half after going 0 of 7 in the first? Is that what it was? Okay. But you just got to have more volume there. You can't be shooting 17 threes in a game in 2024. I'm not worried about Boogie. Tough performance for him. He's going to be fine. He's going to have freshman games. Like we knew it was coming, and now we've seen it. He's going to bounce back. I'm not worried about him, but I am worried about John L. Davis. I am. His role, his usage, why there's not more urgency to rectify it. I just don't understand it. And when asked about, getting him going and forcing the issue after the game, John Calipari said, well, it was the way Illinois was defending him. They stayed out on him. What? So because they guarded John L. Davis, he was just a non-factor the entire game? He just stood in the corner. They didn't have to do anything with him. I don't understand it. And I had somebody in our YouTube comments saying, well, it looks like Arkansas is freezing John L. Davis out. Looks like they're just trying to not get him touches. I don't think they're purposely doing that, but do they start the offense away from him every single possession down the floor? Yes. Do they reverse the ball back to him ever? No. When Boogie's out of the game, do they put him on the ball and let him initiate it all? No. Do I understand why that's happening? Hell no, I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. He can't be taking 3 shots in a game. He had 6 assists. That was really good. When the ball was touching his hands in the second half, he was making good things happen. Good rapport with Big Z. Some things that you like to see there. He didn't come to Arkansas to be Chris Paul. and have a bunch of assists. He came to Arkansas to score. That's why he was brought here, and that's what they really need him to do. And if that's not going to be his role, and that's not going to be the case, and you want him to dish the ball, and you want Boogie Flan to do all the scoring, then put John L. Davis on the damn ball and let him facilitate, and put Boogie in the corner and let him get some catch and shoot threes that he can knock down. I just don't get it. But they have to be more aggressive in terms of getting him going, and he has to be more aggressive in terms of getting himself going. Demand the basketball and start cooking. If they're not going to get that from him, the ceiling for this team is impacted drastically. It just is. So they've got to figure that part out about it. And I've been tooting that horn all season, and obviously people are starting to get frustrated and catch on. But it's true, man. They have to figure that out. I'm not concerned about the front court so much, other than I'm just concerned about Jonas Adu, because he looked better for sure against Illinois. Was moving better, way better than we saw him earlier in the year. But he needs to be all SEC Jonas Adu, and they need him back full strength sooner rather than later. The 10 minutes was nice. He needs to be playing 25 plus for this team. You know, I had a source tell me recently here that Calipari himself, behind closed doors, has really been voicing, how Adu was brought in to be the backbone of this team, and not having him completely changes the outlook. But also having him completely changes the outlook. So where is he at with this? The mystery becomes frustrating. Positive signs, and now you just kind of wait with bated breath until Tuesday to see, is it going to be a deal where all of a sudden he doesn't play less, or he looks worse, or is he better and all of a sudden he's playing 20 minutes and you're starting to see signs of life? It's like a waiting game that makes you it makes you a little bit nervous as a Razorback fan. I get that. I understand it. So at the end of the day, the approach moving forward here for me, I mean, it's going to be measuring improvement and progress game over game, and then trying to identify patterns, right? Are we looking at one-offs and making sure we're not overreacting to those, or are we seeing measured improvement game over game? And it starts with Miami, a team that Arkansas, frankly, should beat. They need to beat. They had no business they would have no business losing to. But they're going to be facing their first true road test at a time here where they just got humbled. And so I love this group. I think they've got so much talent and so much potential. And boy, they continue to show flashes, but they got a long way to go. And we need to start seeing that progress as the opportunities in non-conference play are fewer and far between. And you're getting closer and closer to the SEC, where it's just night in, night out wars that they're not quite ready for yet. So, it's this is a situation where a legit team, I think they respond to what happened Thursday by going down to Miami and taking out some frustrations, and they're capable of doing that. A team that's a little bit lost, they'll let one loss turn into two, and start losing a little bit of confidence, and then you really start to have to figure out a way to kind of dig out of a hole. So we'll see which path this bunch takes, and we'll continue to talk about it in the lead up here. But I get it, for anyone who's wondering where this thing is headed, it was a little bit of a, like we said, kind of an eye opener, against Illinois there. And so maybe a little bit of a reset and a recalibration on where this bunch is at and what they've got to work on. But hey, appreciate you guys as always. It's a long season. Hang in there with me. Appreciate everybody who's been doing that. And appreciate you for your continued support. It's been Curtis Williams. I'm Inside Arkansas on the Pod at the Palace. Everybody have a good day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.